discussion is all about comics. Are you familiar with the comic? Do you have any idea what comics are? And how many of you still read comics? What type of comics did you usually use? So let's define comics. Comics are a form of visual narration that frequently features text or other graphic elements. So these are the example of comics. And there are common forms in comics, include comic strips, editorial, gag cartoons, and comic books. Typically, it takes the shape of a series of picture panels, speech balloons, captions, and onomatopoeia are the examples of textual devices that can be used to represent conversation, narration, sound effects, or other information. So the panels, speech balloons, captions, and onomatopoeia are the examples or the elements of comic strips. So there is no universally accepted definition of comics among theorists and historians. Why? Because other definition place different emphasis on sequentially and other image relationships or historical elements like mass production or the employment of repeating characters. So since the 1920s till the present, comics have been widely read and enjoyed in the Philippines. So in early 20th century, American popular comic strips and comic books serve as some of the inspiration of comics. So the comic strips and comics books has difference. Comic strips are arranged in sequential order with a small number of panels limited to one page, while comic books are compiled of multiple pages and tell more complex stories that can have backstories and side quests. Then after World War II, the media first gained widespread popularity. Since its introduction in January 1929, the comic strip in the Philippines has taken on a variety of roles. So not only has it served as source of fun and laughter, but just as importantly, it has served as a means to contain what has been viewed, mostly as insidious threats to the nation's indigenous culture and folk tradition. So, the national language of the Philippines is Tagalog, which is based on just one dialect, has primarily been popularized through comics. So, in Tagalog, the majority of comics are written. So, in the Philippines, comics have such strong cultural influence that it only makes sense that they are utilized to propagandize or educate.
The history of comics. In 1889, the first comic made by Philippines is The Monkey and the Tortoise by Jose Rizal, published in Trubner's Record in London. In 1929, after Rizal, Kinkoy, written by Tony Velasquez and illustrated by Rudy Flores, became a hit. The humorous figure Kinkoy had a flat or ironed hair and wore baggy slacks, suspenders, and charul shoes. The entire narrative discusses the quirks of Filipinos as they struggle with the new manners and mores that urbanization has brought about. And recently, it has gained more popularity. Previously, it was filtered or featured in Liwayway magazine, which had just started publishing comic strips. In 1931, a large number of comic strip characters joined, and they were all probably based on characters from other nations, such as American comics. For example, Kulafu, who explored the Luzon mountains as Tarzan, Did Africa Wapello, a Chinese store owner, Jezebel the Serene, and the Flying Darna are just a few examples. In 1946, Halakhak, the first comics magazine, opened its doors in 1946. A number of comics anthologies including Filipino comics, Tagalog classics, special comics, and Hiwaga comics followed Halakhak, which only ran for a few issues. Don Ramon Roses, the publisher of Liwayway, and his family would practically run the entire country's comics industry.
So in 1972, the government agencies have used comics to share information ever since the martial law era in 1972 to 1981. The majority of the content is about dreams, hopes, values, and life visions, getting away from reality, or to put it other way. So the people went through in that day or era to tell many readers what's going on in their own world right now. Despite the fact that was made by the hard-working artist, our culture and the public voice and dreams serve as source of inspiration. Additionally, comics were referred to as the literature of the masses because many publishers were producing more than 2 million copies of them every week at that point. So additionally, it estimates that 44 million Filipinos read comics. So because comics are cheap, available in any stall in downtown Manila or in a small store in the barrio, circulated and swapped from small communities to urban areas, so many Filipinos can afford to read them. Dr. Reyes believed that the comics played a variety of roles during that time, so give us as a lesson or insight into different point of view, such as farming, government, science, or medicine. In 1974, in point of fact, Karina Constantino David conducted a study on a comic books in 1974. So it is called The Changing Images of Heroes in Local Comics Books. Intrigued by both literary, cultural, and mass communication in magazines, journals, and thesis. An insight into this topic is that the majority of the stories, characters, and concepts behind comics are derived from real-world situations such as urbanizations, situation of being colonized by another nations or escaping reality.
Types of comics strip. First is self-care comics strip. The understanding of self-care is important to each and every one of us. Simply being mindful of your needs would help you better understand the people around you as well. Second is life comics strip. There are numerous comic strips that tackle stories that define the daily lives of people. A great example of this is a life comics strip. Third is fashion comics strip. A fashion comics strip is a fun and unique way of showcasing the latest fashion trends. Talking about this through a comic strip will keep readers visually entertained with some witty storyline and great graphics. Fourth is education comics strips. An education comics strip is a fun and suitable way of teaching children and adults. This could be incorporated into a poster on the school grounds or posted on a website. Fifth is birthday comics strip. Need a unique yet funny birthday present? Then surprise the birthday celebrant with a one-of-a-kind birthday comics strip. Then 6 is Friends comics strip. A Friends comic strip is one of the most popular storylines in the comics industry. It's easy to understand, more importantly, relatable to a lot of readers. 7 is Enumeration comics strip. Sometimes a comics strip does not need lots of words to convey its message to the readers. Just like this enumeration comic strip, which is designed for exams, particularly for grade school students. 8 is cartoon comics strip. A cartoon comic strip is synonymous with comic strips, as this is the platform used to create plots, draw and design superheroes like Batman, Superman, and Marvel characters, and not to mention where Japanese comics or manga began. Also, they follow a lot of genres from humor, slice of life, action, and mystery to horror, which makes them widely popular with readers of all ages. 9 is love comics strip. A love comic strip is another popular story plot with a large number of readers. This kind of comic strip tackles stories about relationships, heartbreak, and new beginnings. 10 is Office 6-panel comic strip. An Office 6-panel comic strip is a type of comic strip represented in 6 boxes or panels. Its usual plot is all about office-related concerns, or it may be tackle work-related issues.
Elements of comic strip. First is we have panels. These are the spaces that contain a single scene, usually in the shape of a square or rectangle. Second, captions. These set the stage for readers and give information about characters or scenes. Third is gutters. These are the spaces between panels that contain little gaps in time, which readers can imagine what may have occurred in these pauses. Fourth is speech bubbles. These show readers what the characters are saying aloud. And fifth is we have suspension of disbelief. It is the moment in stories or comics when readers temporarily believe that the impossible can happen. We think it's what makes stories magic. Thought bubbles, where these show readers what the characters are thinking. Composition, it is how people and objects appear in a panel. It may also refer to how panels are arranged on a page. Last is sound effects. These use onomatopoeia, which is a word that phonetically imitates, resembles, or suggests the sound that it describes.
So that was all about the comics. Thank you for listening.